Knicks want to unload Evan Fournier and are trying to use Cam Reddish as an enticement to have teams take on Evan Fournier. Both guys have pretty much fallen out of the Knicks rotation. Cam Reddish, he's a young prospect that, may be intriguing to some teams, but Evan Fournier, he's just not it this year. He's having a rough year. Now, maybe, of course, a change of scenery that could really kind of spark and get him back to the guy he was for his career. I mean, he's a 38% three-point shooter for his career. He's not shooting that this year, of course. He's shooting about like 33% roughly. And so with that, teams are a little hesitant. His contract runs through like 2025, and a lot of teams want assets. They're like, hey, yeah, Cam Reddish is great. We'd love Cam Reddish, but Cam Reddish is kind of like a low risk prospect rather than like an ideal asset that teams are like looking at and going, man, he's the guy for the future type thing, and that's kind of the Knicks' dilemma. The Knicks kind of overpaid for Cam Reddish, and now we're in a position where Cam Reddish doesn't want to be there. Tibbs never even wanted him to begin with. He was traded to the Lakers last season until the Knicks ended up kind of getting a little greedy and wanting another first, and then that deal ends up falling through. And now they're back in the same position all over again and hoping that Evan Fournier will be the out that they need to clear some cap space. Team gets Cam Reddish, a nice young prospect. But the problem is that teams don't value Evan Fournier, and Cam Reddish isn't a big enough prize to where people are like, oh yeah, it makes sense to take on Evan Fournier. Beyond that, not many teams have the assets and cap relief that the Knicks are looking for, right? Like teams, yeah, maybe, a team like Miami, maybe they would unload a Duncan Robinson and get Evan Fournier, and maybe Evan Fournier could be better than Duncan Robinson, but that doesn't make any sense for the Knicks, right? Like I'm sure the Heat would love to take Cam Reddish and Evan Fournier if they could unload, Kyle Lowry or Duncan Robinson and all his money and stuff. And Duncan Robinson's been just terrible for Miami the last few seasons. He hasn't been able to replicate that hot run that he had. And so, yeah, I could see a team like that really maybe pursuing this. And they're also linked to Cam Reddish and Evan Fournier. They could use a real sizable wing like Cam Reddish. But again, it has to make sense for the Knicks. And all the other teams are like, well, we want assets. Cam Reddish may be something, but he also might not be, and he needs to be paid. So you're going to have to pay him, and you're also going to have to pay Evan Fournier. It's just a lot of cap commitment. Well, it looks like the Knicks are maybe considering giving up a first-round pick in a potential Lakers trade. The Knicks and the Lakers have discussed a potential trade for Cam Reddish and Evan Fournier in exchange for, some of the Lakers vets like, Patrick Beverley, Kendrick Nunn, maybe a Damian Jones, something like that. And it's just for salary relief. It's just to take them on. They probably won't even play for the team, probably waive them. Maybe they give Kendrick Nunn a chance, or maybe they keep Pat Bev for the young guys and to just be kind of a locker room guy. That could be a possibility, and then just let him expire at the end of the year. But ultimately, they're just trying to unload Evan Fournier. Is what it essentially boils down to, because they don't want to just let him sit on the bench. And so what we got here is it's worth noting that the Lakers have checked in several times on the availability of Reddish over the past year, league sources told HoopsHype. However, it's unlikely that inclusion of Reddish alone would move the needle for the Lakers to take on Fournier's contract, which includes $18.8 million on the books for next season. As previously reported on HoopsHype, the Knicks are reluctant to attach a first-round pick for Fournier in trade talks. Fournier's $18.9 million owed to him for the 2023-2024 season makes him harder to move. Now, he wasn't helping them on the defensive end and has seen a sharp decline in his shooting. They reportedly do not want to trade any of their surplus of future first-round picks to get off of him, but are willing to attach Cam Reddish. Several teams are interested in Reddish, but teams may see him more as a flyer than an incentive since he's is out of the Knicks rotation. So basically, the Lakers, yeah, we want Evan Fournier, we want Cam Reddish, but we're not just going to take them, right? There's even talks about the Knicks basically including Julius Randle, and it would just basically be an even swap, like Russ for Fournier, Randle, and Cam Reddish. No picks, no nothing, maybe a second just to let the Knicks feel like they win type thing. There's been even talks about these two just being a straight up swap, no assets, no nothing. But again, the Lakers, if you're the Lakers, why would you want to take on Evan Fournier? Like, if he can get back to being, a 38% three-point shooter and a serviceable defender, because he's never been an elite defender, but he's always been serviceable, right? He's always been a decent defender, a guy that can stand in front of his guy and hold his own, but he was also just such a great shooter that it made sense for teams to get him. That's why he was this, rotation guy for so long and a starter on pretty much every team he's been on at some point, right? But now he's not the defender he once was, or at least this season he isn't. And he's also not knocking down shots to justify, okay, well, yeah, we're losing a bit on the defensive end, but he's just such a good shooter, you got to keep him on the floor. That's not what's happening. And the Lakers are hoping that, well, if we get Evan Fournier, he's playing next to LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, maybe he can kind of get back, even if he doesn't get back to 38%, can he get back to like 36%, right? Can he get to 37%, something like that, and then Cam Reddish would be that sizable, serviceable wing that they would love to have. He's young, could be a potential prospect for the future. He hasn't really gotten a fair shake on any team he's been on, right? Atlanta, when he was drafted, they immediately went and got like several vets that play his position. So he was the odd man out. They end up trading him to the Knicks. While the Knicks are trading for him, Tibbs is like, I don't want him, because Tibbs isn't big on like the young guys. He likes the veteran guys, but now he's kind of had to play these young guys because it's kind of the direction the Knicks have gone to. And Cam Reddish, he just has this out for him, right? Cam Reddish has had trouble like staying healthy. That's also been a concern. And again, so it's a risk for teams to take on Cam Reddish because he also has to be paid, right? So they're going to have to pay him something, and he's not going to be paid probably $2 million, maybe somewhere in the 10 to 15 million range is probably what he's going to get just because of his age and potential. Teams are probably going to want to lock him up for a long time, especially if you get him and you trade for him. But if you're the Lakers, it's not just about getting these guys. Like, even if Evan Fournier, let's say Evan Fournier does get back to 38%, right? That's great, but there goes all your cap space, right? Is Evan Fournier, Cam Reddish, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James enough to be a title contender for this year and going forward, right? Like, are these two guys the guys that move the needle enough for you to be a contender? Now, if you could get a first-round pick, because the Knicks have an absolute treasure trove of first. I mean, they have a treasure chest that's fallen over with first-round picks. They could easily take one of the less favorable picks and send that to the Lakers and unload Fournier, unload Reddish, maybe even add Randall, right? Maybe you do, if you could get another first, maybe you do the Russ trade, right? Because you'd get Randall, Fournier, and Reddish plus a first round pick, and on top of that, you'd be able to take like all your other pieces. And now you have 3 firsts. Maybe you could go do another deal. Maybe you could go do like a Spurs deal. Or maybe now you do look at the Pacers deal, right? Because you got Evan Fournier, Julius Randle, Cam Reddish. Maybe you go try to work something out and go get Miles Turner or Buddy Hield or, something along those lines. Or maybe, they would like a Cam Reddish or Julius Randle, and maybe you could kind of flip that and maybe make salaries match to where you could get both. I don't know. I'm just saying, it would open flexibility. Or if you could do Patrick Beverley, Kendrick Nunn, and maybe like, a Damian Jones or something like that for these two guys. And if you can get a first, I don't know. I mean, it would be hard for the Lakers to turn it down, right? It does mess up your flexibility, but now you have Russ, JTA, and 3 first-round picks, right? That's basically what you'd have to go, or if you don't include Damian Jones in this deal, Damian Jones. So you basically have 3 firsts and 3 guys that could get you to about 63, 64 million in salary that you could take back, right? So if the Lakers were to make this deal, you can't stop. And look, I'm somebody that has been a huge Russ defender. I'm somebody that loves Russ. I don't want them to trade Russ just to trade Russ, right? I'm not against them trading Russell Westbrook, but there's a couple things you have to ask. One, is Russell Westbrook a piece that you see for your future? And beyond him being a piece for your future, if he's not, then yeah, start looking for a trade. But also, is the trade actually going to make you better, right? So like now, if you could take... maybe you could go do the Boyan deal, right? Maybe you could do something like that. Maybe you could get Sadiq Bey and like Alec Burke, right? Because now you have Russ. Maybe you could get Sadiq Bey, Alec Burke, Boyan Bogdanovic, and Nerlens Noel, right? Like get those 4 for like Damian Jones, Russell Westbrook, and JTA, right? So now you got Cam Reddish, Evan Fournier, You got Alec Burke, Bojan Bogdanovic, and you got, Sadiq Bey. And maybe you're giving the Knicks first and your unprotected first. So now they're getting 2 firsts and maybe, throw in a second. And then you still have one of your first round picks that you could do, maybe if you need to make a later deal. Now you got like 4 or 5 guys in a rotation, and that might be better. Now you got you could have a starting 5 of like Walker, Fournier, Boyan, and then LeBron and Davis, and then still have Thomas Bryant, Nerlens Noel, Alec Burke, or have Alec Burke start because he'd probably be a better starter than Fournier because of his defense. So you go, let's say Walker, Burke, Boyan, LeBron, and Davis, right? That's a really good starting 5, well balanced, can shoot, do a little bit of everything. Now you got real threats around LeBron and AD, and then you still have like Dennis Schroeder. You still have, Fournier, Cam Reddish, Sadiq Bey, Thomas Bryant, Winning Gabriel. Like now you're like legit, like 14 to 15 deep for the next like couple seasons. And you have young prospects like Max Christie, Austin Reeves, will Walker take, the Lakers could offer him like 7.7 million. Like, would he do something like that? There have been players that have done, like Portis. Portis is a guy that's done that. Where he's taken a smaller deal to get caught up so that way they could get his bird rights to go over the cap. Like stuff like that. Maybe a player would be willing to do that. Like imagine if you had all those guys but you had Walker, you had Reeves, you had Bey, you had Reddish, you had all these guys for the future as well. Max Christie. Now you not only do you have a great influx of vets, but you got some solid youth as well that you can start developing for, the post LeBron and post this team era. And this is a team you'd have for the next several seasons, right? At least next 2-3 years, because that's how long most of the contracts are. You're going to re-sign Alec Burke. You're going to re-sign Nerlens Noel. You're going to re-sign guys like that. So this team is basically going to be your team for the next at least 3-4 years. And that might be enough depth and talent around LeBron and AD to actually be a contender. And I'm not saying that all those things would happen, but what I'm saying is that, if you can get a first from the Knicks, it comes down to how badly do the Knicks want to unload Evan Fournier. They really want to move off of Evan Fournier, and no teams are biting but the Lakers, and the Lakers are like, hey, we will take him, but we want another first. If they can get a first-round pick in the deal, then I think you maybe you look to make the move, but you'd have to do another move. You can't just get these two and then just stand pat and just get a first. Evan Fournier and Cam Reddish aren't going to give you enough production to where all of a sudden you're a contender. Even if Evan Fournier could go back to being 40% from 3, and it's still not going to be enough for you to be legit. Like, you need guys that can, you need several guys. Cam Reddish may or may not be something. He's more of like if he works, great. If he doesn't, he's a piece for our future that we could develop and grow, and just kind of a big body, right? If he could just play serviceable defense. But if you're going to do this deal, even if the Knicks give you a first, right? Like, you have to really take a Russell Westbrook trade seriously, because now you're putting a team together that is going to be your team for the future, not just this year. Because Evan Fournier ruins all your cap space, right? And there's nothing really wrong with that. It's not like there's an abundance of free agents next season that are worth going after. Like, yeah, maybe you get Miles Turner. You could probably trade for Miles Turner right now. Yeah, Gary Trent Jr. But how valuable is he? Like, is he worth giving like real money to? Like, there's not really any like game-changing guys in the offseason either way. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments section below. What do you think? If the Knicks attach a first, would you take Evan Fournier? Would you not? Again, they're reluctant. So that doesn't mean that they will do it. Doesn't mean that they won't, though, right? And there have been reports and there have been, some conversation that the Knicks are at least considering it, that it's at least a thought that's crossed their mind. So, at least if they're thinking about it, there's always a potential that they'll do it. It depends on how much do they want to move off of Evan Fournier. How much do they want that cap flexibility? We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Tomorrow's the 15th, so a lot of guys become available, and maybe we get a deal done. But again, love to hear your thoughts, opinions, good, bad, ugly, somewhere in between, down in the comment section below.